and
Cool.
trying to play control mages because I was told that in low elo I should learn spacing and that control mages would help me do that.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
so, I mean, I have a recent VOD that I think I can't say I did great in,
Yeah.
but I definitely I lost and I don't know like what I was. I know there's a lot of times where I per se had very bad positioning in lane, and I just got rolled in lane.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Cool. Let's watch the VOD.
do you want me to send it to you?
No, it's good. I can see what you're streaming right now. So if you want to pause for a moment, let's set it up so that we can talk about things. Yeah. So you see the eye on the bottom left. There's a little eye under all. Yeah, let's click on that and open up the scoreboard. Perfect. Okay, now click on the eye again. Can you double click your champion?
This one?
Yeah, you're playing Orianna, right? Oh, sorry. On the screen, on the screen. Yeah. So the other thing that I want to see is next to your movement speed, again on the left. There's a little triangle. Let's open that up too. Okay, perfect. Cool. So essentially, what I like to do in the VOD review is talk through not necessarily like only your mistakes, but also like what are you thinking about when you're going into a matchup? How do you think it's going to play out? Did you set yourself up for success? What are some things that I think you should test out or try out? And also really just expand your champion mastery here. So, um, first question. Before the game even starts, what are some things that you're considering at this moment getting into the game?
Meaning,
Yeah, just anything. So, for example, an example could be like, hey, I'm playing against a gangplank. Did I take armor runes? What should be my starting item?
oh,
Do
what am
I
I
have
thinking? Okay.
just like everything? Like, contextualize for me what you're thinking about for this game at this moment. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going against a game plan,
Mm hmm.
and he's 80, so I go bone plating
Okay.
and revitalize. Although here, I think I went bone plating by accident.
Okay.
I don't, I don't know, I don't know what the other one was. Something when. What's the other one?
Second wind.
Second,
Is that
yeah,
what you're referring
second
to?
one.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I should have gone second one. This
Okay.
one, just because I know Gangplank does a lot of poke damage,
Mm hmm.
and Oriana is also a poke damage type of champion.
Mm hmm.
So I mean, that's kind of where I went. And if we unpause real quick, where I put my items, let me see what I got. I got Tier Goddess to build into
Okay. Cool.
for
Sure. So what else? What else do you think you need to consider going into this matchup? So you talked me through the runes a little bit, your item choice. Um, what about the early game? Like, how do you think the early game is going to play out here?
you know what? I don't. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't ever really go against the Gangplank mid,
Okay.
so I kind of had not the greatest idea of what would happen.
Okay.
But I saw he went longsword and two
Mm-hmm.
refill potions. So I tried to beat him early game. I was thinking like maybe if I just like constantly poke at him, maybe I can get him to low HP where he'll have to leave and TP back, and then I can back and TP in.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking more of like a like just control the middle and
Right.
try to poke him out as much as possible.
Right. Okay.
But
Cool.
I know I
S
can't kill him.
No, I mean, I just want to understand like your thought process here because I want to make sure that given your thought process, you're approaching the game the same way so that you're committing to a certain play style and that you're doing it that way. But I also want to introduce like other options for you. So for example, I agree with some of what you said. I disagree with some of what you said and I'll explain why in a moment. But the first thing that I wanted to talk about, yeah, if you want to open up the scoreboard again and click on your champion again and bring back up your runes. So, Orianna, when you start tier, right, you're essentially saying to your opponent, you're playing kind of a slower scaling style, right? So, like, Orianna's strong in the early game, a little weak in the mid game, and then she spikes again in the late game. That's kind of her trajectory, so to speak. And so the comfort that comes from like playing with tier is more of that like scaling safe style. Anyway, so what I wanted to also mention is, are you thinking about jungle timers, or should we just like, what do you think about your jungle matchup in this case?
Diego, Kane.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm just very careful of Kane because
Okay.
obviously he can just go through walls.
Okay.
And I want to hope Diego, get as much kills as he can
Okay.
whenever he's in river because I know I can't get to like top lane, bottom lane too fast.
Yeah.
So I just want to help him secure kills in
Cool.
the river.
Sweet. Okay, so now we've talked about a lot of factors. Let's press play and then see how it plays out and see if like things went according to your plan, or what happened. And then we can go back and critique a lot of it. Okay, so they invade level 1. Your team's gonna respond. Nothing like a little level 1 fun. He didn't
I
take the
don't know if I
body.
pinged it off early, but I don't think we have a stronger level one than them. So I really
And
didn't want to
I
put that.
completely agree, which is why that was kind of interesting to watch. Also, your team opted into a 4v5, which is not always the best choice. Anywho, cool. So let's see. You're pushing the wave. Gangplank reset, so you kind of got this free level 1.
I think here, I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, well, I don't see Gangplank. He probably back.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just juice as much XP as possible from here
Hmm.
while he's
Okay.
like um, push this wave inside and make him lose XP or coins.
Okay. All right. So let's pause here, and let's rewind to let's go back to the beginning of laning phase. Okay. So most of the things that you said, I actually agree with. In this matchup, Orianna does struggle a little bit to bully the gangplank. However, Orianna's identity is kind of this like really strong auto attacker control mage in the early levels. So this game, it's kind of hard for me to talk about Orianna without talking about the fact that you're in a losing matchup. But it's good. It works. So essentially, what I noticed in the level 1, right, is the first thing I noticed is that you're not committing to what you want to do with the wave, right? So for example, you're doing this like half push, half not push, and you warded above yourself. So I just wanted to understand like, why did you ward that bush above you? Curious.
Hold on, I have to replay it to kind of understand.
Yeah, no
Oh,
worries.
maybe okay.
Let's do one thing at a time, right? So right now, what's happening to your wave?
My wave
Mm-hmm.
is hold on. So he's gonna have a full wave. I
Mm-hmm.
have four of my minions. I'm pushing my wave into this tower. Is it
Right.
still pushing into this tower?
Right. So the question that I just asked you is something that I want you to go into every single game and remind yourself every 30 seconds, what am I doing with this wave? What am I doing with this wave? Because mid lane is literally a tempo game. And what that means is, generally speaking, in mid lane, when you play a control mage, you don't have the best reliable way to get kills, right? Like, let's take Orianna, for example, right? She kind of has this poke style. There's no way for you to set up a kill for yourself and get it consistently, right? You're not an assassin, you don't have hard CC, and you're playing against a gangplank who can remove CC and heal himself. So what that means is your goal in this matchup is to gain tempo, right? And do you know what tempo is by any chance?
No.
So tempo is essentially what's happening right now, right? Like, so for example, Gangplank isn't even on the map, right? So if there were a fight to occur, or you needed to get to a location first, you have tempo. You'll be there first. You'll be a higher level. So in this case, in this very moment, you have tempo on Gangplank. And so that's the type of game that you're going to be playing against the Gangplank, where one, you can't really kill him. Two, the poke that you do doesn't really stick. And I'll explain what that means too. So for example, when you're playing a mage versus mage matchup, right? Apart from Vlad, right? Let's exclude Vlad from that. When you're playing mage versus mage, the goal is to land as many skill shots as possible to manage the wave and damage your enemy. And what that does is it opens up plays for you to be first. So, for instance, right now, right, your wave is pushing. That means Gangplank has to make a choice. He either has to come catch the wave or give up the CS to go to the play. And that's what tempo means. So the thing that you said earlier, right? You said, I want to help Viego get as many kills as possible. That's what you should be playing for, almost essentially, because there's no way you're going to be in a scenario where you can reliably kill the Gangplank. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing is you took teleport, right? So using that teleport to your advantage in kind of the way that you were saying. So I like that your thought process here is push and go help my jungler. It's a little early, and I want you to commit to the push. So, for example, what that means is like throwing your Q on the wave, auto attacking, auto attacking, auto attacking, and shoving it in to truly try to deny any sort of XP. Because what ended up happening is actually you didn't really deny him any XP, which is fine. But the second thing that's going to happen, and you have to consider this in this game, is that Gangplank is 1-0-1. That means he's going to come back with an item advantage. So you actually want to fight him even less. Does that make sense in this instance?
Yeah.
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 So you want to play in this instance kind of that wave manipulation game that gets you tempo so that you can help your jungler as much as possible. That's kind of the mindset that I would encourage for you to evaluate when you're going into any game. Especially with control mages. Control mages are pretty damn weak early, right? Like, they're not super skirmishy. They're not able to go first into a play, right? You can't really face check. You have to have your jungler come and kind of assist you and create some of that space. So that's kind of the first element of this early game. I want to go into some micro details. So, for instance, do you know when you hit like level 2 or level 3 in mid lane?
Do I know exactly when it happens?
Yeah.
I think it's after one wave, right? So three melee and three.
Yeah,
Uh,
so you hit level 2 when you've killed off 7 CS, which
Seven.
means
Okay.
which means you get the first wave and then the first melee minion on the next wave. So that's important, right? That's the first kind of second, that's level 2. Level 3 is also important because that's when you have access to your full kit and you can actually do Orianna's harass combo, right? Which is Q, W, auto, E, right? Like that's kind of the harass combo that we think about when we think about Orianna, those short trades. Um, Especially into a melee matchup where you can abuse some of that range, right? Like you can take the Q, you can auto. If he tries to hit you back, you throw your E down, and then you get a shield to counter that damage, right? So that's kind of how. That's like the other layer of the early game, right? You want to think about, okay, one, what am I doing with every single wave? Two, how am I going to help my jungler? And then three, like what are the trade patterns that I should be optimizing for in this scenario? Does that make sense as a concept, like as concepts?
Yeah.
Perfect. So let's play this out a little bit more and see how it goes. So here, right? Here's where you wore this top brush. Can I ask why you wore it there?
Okay. So I still don't know where. So my brain isn't at the point where I can be like, yeah, I know for a fact Kane is at blue or red.
Sure.
So what I'm doing, right? Probably it probably should have been better for me to wear it up here in the general area so I can see more. But I want to play on a side, and I was told that positioning myself, I should play on the sides. So I'm giving myself vision here,
Mm-hmm.
so that if I see a game come down here, because I
Yeah.
mean, early game, I think a full jungle clear like
Mm-hmm.
chickens, rugs, and red is level 3, right?
For Kane?
Yeah, for a pain.
Yes. Chickens meaning raids, right? So raids, red, and Krugs get to jungler level 3, correct.
Okay.
So you're
So
worried about potentially Kane ganking you at level 3 after clearing bot side?
yeah, but
Gotcha.
I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know the
Uh huh.
concept of like knowing which buff he's at,
Right.
or so I just want a safe space for
Yeah, so
myself.
I'll make a suggestion, right? So if you think about what you just said, right? Like Kane has Kane. If you want to assume where Kane is starting, you can make a guess, right? Like in this game, you're guessing that he's doing chickens, red, and Krugs. Instead of warding that bush, for example, you don't have a lane opponent right now, right? What
Yeah,
if you push this lane wave in and went and warded his raptors, right? So
yeah,
let's if you move your camera down for a moment. Right now you don't have a lane opponent. Nothing can stop you from walking here, throwing a ward down and walking back. What does that tell you, for example, right? So like that tells you one, did he do Kane wants to do Raptor. Let's press play actually for a moment and then I can explain it better because it hasn't happened yet, right? So for example, if you had thrown that ward down at Raptors, I'm sure he's going to go there. One, you would see him go there right now. There is another reason to ward Raptors generally for against the Kane, and that's because Kane actually does Raptors extremely well. A lot of times, Canes will start Raptors at their level 1. So there's a couple things that better warding will tell you. So even though your brain can't process it, I recommend doing those types of wards because the other thing that you can guess, if Raptors are not done and it's like 3 minutes, you have to assume that Kane is probably topside, right? Because he hasn't done
yeah,
Raptors yet. So picking where you ward a little bit better. I can give some more suggestions of good warding, but the first thing I would encourage is ward Raptors. Ward the ramp if you go down for a moment again. The ramp over here, ward this ramp area, and that protects you from a couple things. Actually, if you go a little deeper, even deeper than that. No, sorry, towards his jungle, towards the enemy jungle. Yeah, somewhere there, right? So one, you'll be able to see, okay, did he do this camp? Did he cross over? Is he about to gank me from the bot side, right? And having that knowledge lets you play to a certain side. Does that make sense?
yeah. I can see what you're saying.
Yeah. So kind of like when you're doing things within the game, always ask yourself, why am I doing this thing, right? And that takes a lot of practice. um, and obviously, there's so many freaking things to ask yourself why about, right? Like why am I pushing? Why am I fighting gangplank? Why am I on this side? Why is my like? There's so many questions, right? You have to like figure out what's the best ones to ask, and that comes with practice.
Right.
What I'm trying to just tell you about is like stuff that's important for you to become a better mid lane player. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cool. Um, so let's rewind a little bit again. I wanted to highlight something really quickly.
Is there like an hotkey where I can rewind a little?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
actually, yeah, that you can click on that thing. That works too. But let's just press play. This is a good spot. So, um, what are you doing right now? Right, like let's pause for a moment. What are you trying to do here?
I think right here, my mindset was I'm already past this. So, I mean, this is level two, obviously early game. I don't think anybody would be in the right mind to gank as a Kane. But I'm just like, let me get out of this danger area
Hmm.
and just push this lane into the tower to
Yeah,
deny them some gold.
yeah. So makes sense. The two things I would say is one, bring you back to the fact that Gangplank already has a Sheen, right? So do you know what Sheen does?
No.
Okay, so Sheen is actually a 1100 gold item, right? 1100 gold for you, the equivalent would be chapter. And once you get chapter, you probably feel pretty good, right? Like that's a strong item. So
It's
for
just,
Gang,
yeah,
so for Gangplank, he's already got that item. So right now, in this instance, you are way, way, way weaker than this Gangplank is, and you have to like recognize to respect that. So what happens on this wave, right? Like, what should you do? You can't really
what
push it
should
in.
I do?
Yeah, yeah. So I want you to ask yourself that question. Like, what do you do with this wave now, right? Gangplank's stronger than me. It's stuck in front of his tower. What should I, as a player, now do, right? Like, what are my options? Your options are pretty limited, I'd say, right? Like, you can't really shove this in because it's a cannon wave. Your junglers are not going to be fighting anytime soon. So probably you kind of have to fall back a little bit here, right? So like, and if you notice, actually, if you press play, you take a cannon right here. I think you take this barrel. Look how much of your
Yeah.
HP just disappears. He's way stronger than you, and you can't do anything about it at this stage. So, go ahead. Did you have a question, or was it?
Oh, no, 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 no,
Oh,
no.
got it,
Right.
got it. The other thing that I want you to recognize at any given moment is again what's happening to this lane, right? What's happening in this lane state? Do you know?
Right now, my cannon's about to die. So his wave's gonna come, my wave's gonna come, and his wave's gonna probably slow push into my tower.
Exactly. So knowing that and knowing that Gangplank is way stronger than you in this moment, I would actually play pretty defensively and work on trimming the wave. Do you know what trimming the wave means?
You target the range champions, right? Or the range
Yeah, so you
minion.
want to make it so that it's not hard shoving towards you because you don't want to be in a position where you're completely under tower and you're taking parlay harass, his Q harass. You want to
Yeah.
be sort of in the middle or towards your side of the jungle. So by trimming the wave, you want to make sure that like there's as equal number of minions as possible on both sides. So when it starts, if you press play, it's going to start pushing towards you, right? So right now it's slow pushing. You're kind of like, you can't walk up to it easily. You kind of just have to let it. But what you can do is use your Q and your W to secure the cannon, trim the wave, hit as many minions as possible, and kind of stand back. Because I would say right now you're actually pretty out of position. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are all little things that tend to like add up to how the lane plays out. Because now actually you're in a pretty bad spot, I would say overall, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I would suggest, okay, I think you're gonna recall. Oh, you don't recall. Can I ask why you chose to stay?
Okay, so I knew this would kill me if I died. I mean, if he had exploded it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I also kind of knew that I would have to stay for some XP,
Hmm.
or else I'm
Why
like
do Why do you
hard
think that
losing
you need this XP? Just curious.
because I'd be hard losing late
I
early.
see.
I
Okay.
feel like, but
And
then
is
again, I have
there?
CP.
Yeah. Is there a problem to missing that XP? I'm just curious. What do you think?
Uh,
Like,
to
aren't
be honest,
you as
I think
Orianna?
there's a problem
Sorry, what
losing
was that?
XP in general. I said to me, I think losing XP in general is a problem,
Yeah,
but
you're not wrong. I'm just asking in this instance, for example, what happens if you lose a little bit of XP?
I'm safe.
Yeah. So actually, if you rewind a little bit, let's go back a little bit for back to that play. So right when you have 0 HP here, choosing when to recall is actually very important, right? You're not wrong. You are right. You don't want to lose as much XP as possible. However, what's happening here if you press pause?
Right now, yeah, 3 minion, three. He's slow pushing onto my.
Right. So actually, you can prep for this recall almost 30 seconds ago, right? So if you rewind one more time, and even maybe even further back, let's go even further back. Let's press play, right? So what your wave right now is stuck, right? It's stuck there. They're equal minions, whatever. Your next wave is going to be a cannon wave, and the way you can check for that is just move back, like move your camera back. Look at your minions coming right now. Boom, cannon wave. What does that mean for this next wave? That means Gangplank won't be able to deny you shit. because he can't shove this in fast enough, right? Like the cannon wave is actually the best wave to recall on. So for example, let's say you were recalling here, right? You started your recall and then you TP'd back. I think you'd be in a much better spot. What do you think?
That's true.
Yeah.
Be
So
half HP,
so
no mana.
yeah, so I'm trying to harp less on like the details because it's unique to this game. But what I'm trying to identify is like every time you're in a situation, ask yourself what options do I have, right? Like what are things that I can do in this moment and what will it lead to, right? And it starts with what's happening to this wave, what am I trying to do with this wave, what's happening at this moment, right? So always asking yourself why should I do something and what's happening at this moment will help you answer those questions a little bit better. Because you have to be like very League is like so complicated. Like when you watch a streamer, for example, that guy's probably autopiloting, right? And you don't see him needing to ask all these questions because they have the muscle memory down. But when you're earlier on and you're learning like control mages and stuff, you have to be constantly doing things with intent, and that takes a lot of practice. Does that make sense? Like what I just said?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Do you have any questions so far? I know that like I've talked decent amount. Like, is this helping?
Yeah. I do. The only
Mm-hmm.
question I really have for you right now is is that advice true? Should I only be playing control mages in the beginning stages?
Uh, what was the advice exactly? If you don't mind, what was the
I
exact
think
advice?
I think it was along the lines of a good suggestion would be to play Orianna
Mm-hmm.
because she is a control mage and beginners should learn spacing.
Gotcha. Um. So control mages, I would actually argue are so there's a couple ways I can answer that question. So control mages will help you in certain ways, and each type of champion that you choose to learn will teach you a different skill set, right? So for example, control mages are medium difficult, I would say. Okay, so there's this spectrum of like difficulty, and what skills do I learn from playing that difficulty? Let's level set really quickly. So control mages play the game very uniquely, right? Like so, control mages I would bucket things like Orianna, Anivia, like what are some other control mages? They're not. I'm blanking right now.
And I think
Ari,
Syndra.
yeah, like Syndra, Ari, Aurelion Sol. All of those champions are control mages. The thing that comes with that is one, they're skill shot reliant, right? So you'll learn to do skill shots if that's something that you're interested in. The other thing you'll learn is like wave management because control mages are not like assassins. They're not like bruisers. They're not fighters. They don't just like run at you and kill you, right? It takes time. You have to outmaneuver your opponent a lot to get a kill on a control mage. So if that kind of play style appeals to you, then yeah, you should definitely play control mages, man. Like they're super fun. They're really good at all that. They're good at like outputting damage into the mid game once you figure out the spacing, once you figure out the lane management, once you figure out like your damage potential. So those are kind of the factors you have to consider when playing control mage versus like a fighter, like let's say Aurelia, where it's less about skill shots. It's more about like, okay, how do I maximize my passive so I can beat this person down and get in their face, right? It's like completely different play style. Um, does that make sense though? Like what I'm trying to
Yeah,
say is like it
yeah,
really depends on what resonates with you. You know, like you want to
okay,
play for fun too, right? Like there's a lot to learn, but there's also a lot of fun in certain styles of play.
okay.
Do you like the control mage play style? Like you've tried it a few times by now, I'm sure.
I like it when I'm winning, as though I
Yeah,
like anything when I'm winning. But
fair.
I honestly, I mean,
Yeah,
I was playing Yone for a while before playing
sure.
like Oriana and Annie. Annie's a burst mage, correct?
Annie is a burst mage, correct? Yes.
Okay.
She's
So,
not skill shot reliant. She doesn't really control. Yeah, she's definitely a burst mage.
I mean, I was playing Vigar, Malzahar, and Yone. Malzahar, I mean, it was okay,
Mm-hmm.
but I was also told that it was a good champion to play in low elo, just
He
because
is.
he's very, I don't know, he's strong.
He is extremely low barrier to entry, right? So Malzahar, as a control mage, you kind of get away with not needing to know that many fundamentals when you're playing Malzahar. And the reason is he controls the wave so easily, right? Like Riot even said his E can now execute minions at low HP. So it takes a lot of the thinking that I'm talking to you about for Orianna out of the game. Because you don't really have as many options as an Orianna does, right? So when you're playing a control mage, it's all about like tempo, creating options, roaming. It's like poke damage, skill shots. Malzahar doesn't really have any of that, right? Malzahar is only useful when you have your ultimate. Malzahar doesn't really need to manage the wave. He just presses EWQ and he walks away, right? You can't really skirmish as Malzahar. So the simplicity of it becomes a bit easier. It just kind of depends if that's something you enjoy, right? Like, do you want to PVE essentially to some extent? Then yeah, play Malzahar. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah. I would continue like just playing messing around, you know, try a few more champions. You're still like it's not even important for you to climb at this stage. It's really like about learning those champions. So I would try other control mages and see how you feel and then decide what you want to go down.
okay.
Yeah. Do you play anything else other than Oriana or mostly Oriana right now?
So right now I play Oriana.
Okay.
I mean, that's about it. But
Okay.
I mean,
So my
in mid
suggestion
I played um before I was introduced to control mages, I played a lot of Yone,
Okay.
as I said,
Right.
some Katarina. So a lot of the assassin role. Not
Yeah.
really much of Zed, but
Yeah, very different play style, as I'm sure you've realized by now.
oh yeah.
Oriana is definitely a more difficult champion than some of the other ones. I would say that control mages in general who don't have reliable wave clear are difficult. So Oriana is a bit difficult. Like, what was I gonna say? Aurelion Soul can be a little difficult, but what they do provide you is the ability to play more passively, right? Like you can play a little more passively when you're playing control mage because you get to that point where you do clear waves, then you're really unlocked, right? Like maintaining the waves, then you can do whatever the heck you want. So that's why people like control mages, because you can play that defensive style if you're a little newer to the game.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you have any more questions at this moment, or do you want to play
No.
out for a couple more minutes and then see how many? Yeah, let's see. Let's see what else happens in this early game. See, he can't really push this in. Actually, what is he doing? He's not even pushing it in. So for you to recall here means you wouldn't lose any XP. And you don't. Nice. So yeah. So right now, right? What are you planning on doing? I think you spam paying that Gangplank is missing.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
And so I
pause for a
assume.
moment. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So my bronze mentality. I'm very indecisive right now, but at this point, I'm like, okay, I knew Gangplank he's been roaming a little bit. I'm not sure if he did it early game. I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure he went down here at one point. But I've already seen him go down here, so maybe he's going down here to this little skirmish.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, but if he recalled, I should probably push this wave in because this wave isn't coming for a while. This one is coming for a while, obviously.
Okay.
And try to deny him all of this right here.
I see.
But like I said, I'm not sure if he's coming here, so I'm
Right.
like, I'm scared to push. I
Right.
don't want to die.
Okay. So let's rewind to the moment that you get back to lane, and I can help you navigate the situation. So you just TP'd, right?
Yep.
So what does that mean right now? If we go back to the concept of tempo, right? You have all the tempo, right? You just bought, you healed up, now you're on the map. Actually, what happens now is you can figure out whether Gangplank recalled or not. I would encourage you that when you've TP'd back to walk forward. You have more HP. Even if you take some damage by walking forward, you've stopped the other person's recall, right? So generally speaking, right? If we go back a little bit further, even you see Gangplank here right now, right? He has half HP, 0 mana. What are the chances that he's going to roam to something right now? Very, very,
Good.
very low, right?
Right.
And he spent all his mana trying to get the wave to crash. So now that you've TP'd back, I would actually encourage you to pressure him, right? So,
Right.
so for example, now that you're here, right? Like, let's let the wave start to crash. Press play. But start walking up. Like, start walking up into the middle of your lane. You could still hit those minions, but if you walk to the middle right there, you could probably tell that Gangplank recalled if you walked up. And you would know that. So then you could commit to the push even harder. Because right now, actually, you've delayed your push, and Gangplank is actually coming back to lane. So you're not going to be able to crash this anymore. But if you knew that he was recalling and played to the push earlier, then you could get to the crash and you could roam to the play first. Does that make sense? Is that making
Yeah.
sense right now? Because right now,
Yeah.
what happens? He catches this.
Yeah.
And now you're kind of in a rough spot. Actually, you saw Kane come up the river, so you know that he could be here. Yeah. If Gangplank was smart, he'd freeze the shit out of this. Actually, his Kane didn't let him. But anyways, if he was smart, he would freeze that. That's actually pretty impressive that a bronze Gangplank can triple barrel. It's not easy to do. So anyways, now that he's bought, again, now Gangplank has tempo. One thing that I will compliment you is that you have a lot more CS. So even though you feel like you're losing, you're doing just fine to Orianna's playstyle. You're getting CS, you're getting experience, Gangplank isn't able to like abuse your roam or do anything crazy. You're kind of controlling this early game, and that's really good for a control mage. So you're kind of playing to your win conditions, whether you knew it or not. But again, when you're
Well,
in these situations where you don't know if your laner is roaming, just walk up a little bit. Unless it's like a Zed or a Talon or something that one shots you, get some vision. Then you'll have an answer for yourself and you can commit to the play harder. Does that make sense?
yeah,
Nice. Now you're
I
six,
think
you're
he
kind of out
fucked
of
me here.
mana. Sorry?
I was about to say, I think he fucked me here, but never mind.
No worries. You're kind of out of mana here, so I actually would recall. Is that what you're trying to do?
I think so. I don't.
Okay.
Maybe I think I. This is when I lose a lot of my CS, and then I
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he out CS's me from
Yeah,
this
I'd
player.
highly recommend in these instances to cut your losses. You know, it's like when you have this choice in front of you and you're out of mana, sometimes it's better to just recall, take a few losses, and then come back. Because right now, your jungler doesn't know that you're out of mana, and he might even be trying to start a dragon, which is absolutely horrible for your team. I'm surprised that he's getting away with this. But right now, you can't do anything. You can't help anybody. So if you're not there, you're
He stole it.
yeah, that's even great. But if you're not there, hopefully your jungler realizes that you're not there and doesn't do that dragon. Because it's not a good play. The bot lane has tempo here. Their bot lane has push. I don't know why he's doing that. Anyways, just another little detail that I can throw in there. I'm gonna stop here. Do you have any last questions, or is there anything else I can answer for you while we're here?
No, it's so no good.
Cool. Was this helpful? Did like what I said make sense?
Yeah,
Sweet.
for sure.
Awesome. Well, it was nice to meet you then. I'm going to stop